Guy who probably a lot of people are waking up with nightmares about is Khabib Nurmagomedov. What do you think about his performance, man?
I'm sure no different than anybody else, man. I mean, I got to tell you, but I still think even with him, and that was, I mean, Barboza is not an easy guy to deal with,
Right.
and he just made that look easy. And I think this guy, his mindset is really what people should key in on because he was walking through some of that stuff. He accepted the responsibility. He was going to get hit, but he wasn't going to take no for an answer. And he just got what he wanted, man. And when he gets you, his ground and pound is
Oh,
literally vicious. I mean, he lumped up Edson pretty good. And look, man, hats off to Barboza. I think most guys would have definitely have quit. They would have given up their back. They would have did something to get out of that fight. But man, that guy's a tough son of a bitch, man. He stayed in there under the shittiest of circumstances. And it's, like again, hats off to him. But the other guy's just
oh,
he's a killer at this point. I
yeah.
mean, if you can't deal with the wrestling that guy brings, you're just in for it's just a nightmare.
Yep.
And he's made a lot of improvements, too, when it comes to his striking game. A lot of those weren't going to be showcased in a matchup like this. But he said to me when I spoke with him last week that, to defend a kicking game like Barboza's, you need to figure out offensively what you're doing, too. And he feels like his kicking game over the last 6 months with Barboza on his radar is on a different level than it was. But, you got a guy in Weidman, Ray, who prides himself on his ground and pound. I mean, have you ever seen a guy on the ground under 185 pounds strike like this kid? It's insane.
No, he's on a whole nother level. And again, I mean, I think it's a great roadmap for guys like Weidman because I really believe Chris could do the same thing, just like Cain Velasquez does. I mean,
Yep.
and I think again, Velasquez, you got to give it up to him. The guy is 240 pounds and he can keep a
Right.
crazy pace.
Yeah.
And when he's on, he's another guy. He's just hard to beat. And I think Velasquez's stand up is much better than Khabib's. What we've seen. And, I'd like to see Chris really adapt that mindset and just go after it because he will get you down. And then it comes down to controlling it and keeping it on the floor. And again, I think we have to give it up to Edson. He did get up a couple of times where nobody's really been able to do that. So, I don't know. That was a phenomenal performance by Khabib. I mean, it really, it should be him and Ferguson. I think,
Yeah, that's the
the
fight.
other guy should just relinquish the belt. Or Dana's got to step in and go, "Hey, you got till March 1st to defend this, or that's over." But he's not. I think Khabib walks right over him. I don't think that's even a fight, to be honest with you. And Khabib Ferguson is really the only intriguing matchup right now to make, and that's the fight. I'm sure that's going to happen, but I think the other guy should just relinquish the title at this point.
Yeah. All right, last thing, unless you got anything for us on the way out. If you had to pick a fighter at 155 pounds to beat Khabib Nurmagomedov, Kenny sort of felt like it would be Conor McGregor forced to choose, although he didn't really love his options. I mean, who is the guy best equipped at 55 to actually give this guy a competitive fight? Is it Tony?
It
doesn't sound like you
Ferguson.
think it is.
I think Ferguson. I think what look, I'd really have to. I just don't think Conor's got nowhere near the ground game to deal with this guy. And once he gets you down, I think Ferguson might be a little trickier off his back. And that would be interesting if he could, somehow negate some of the ground and pound. But I think that's what makes that fight interesting. And Ferguson looks like he's got a decent gas tank. I mean, Conor just doesn't have the gas tank to deal with this guy. That's the other thing. He really, he hasn't shown that in a 5-round fight where he's, he has periods where he takes a little break and he has come back, but his conditioning is nowhere near this guy. I do believe this guy could afford another time that night. Just give him a little break. I mean, he looks like he trains hard. Look, he's not out there. Look, I love what he said about his family. Kind of keeps that a little private. This guy's serious, man. He's all business. He doesn't give a shit right now about the Rolls Royces and the stupidity and all of that shit. He's a fighter, and I really hope the UFC embraces him and gets behind him because I think the guy speaks well. He stands for the right stuff. He's a great interview. He's got a great sense of humor if you ever see him like with DC.
Oh, yeah.
what's not to like about this
he
guy?
He needs to come up with his own blender. Like Vitamix needs to come in and do like the Nurmagomedov blender, something like that. Yeah, the
either that or a
blender.
sledgehammer.
Yeah, exactly.
One or the other. He needs his own sledgehammer, I think. He just smashes everything. But no, that was you got to be impressed with that performance.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what to say. I mean, he is a handful for anybody. But I think look, here's the key. The key is going to be who can keep that fight standing with him. And then I think he would be in a little trouble. You know what I mean? But that's going to be the key. Can you stop a takedown?
Right.
Can you keep it standing? Because, again, I think last night was the wrong time to look, but it didn't look like his striking was at the level of some of these guys.
Yeah, and that's his weakness. Absolutely. That's his weakness.
Obviously he makes up for it in toughness, and I'm sure he's powerful when he's swinging, but he's definitely not a technical fighter yet that way. I haven't seen it. But when Barboza was tired, man, he did land some nice shots, but not like it was, anything that's going to, scare anybody. It's more the fact that if you get tired with this guy, you're screwed completely. And I'd like to see the Ferguson fight. I think that's a great matchup, and I think that's the one I'd like to see. I don't think Conor's got the endurance. He definitely has the punching power for the guy, but I don't know how he's, this guy goes for a couple of takedowns and gasses him out, and then his power is going to go down the drain too. So that's a tough matchup for Conor. I'd love to see it, but I don't think anybody thinks that's happening, do they?
Right. Yeah, no, I think it's a long shot. I think for the timeline, too, I think Khabib's going to want to get in there first quarter 2018. And you gave me a great idea. I mean, Kenny, how many Khabib hammers can we sell? If it's a hammer with, like, his papapa wig or what is it?
Yeah.
Papaka? The papaka as, like, the handle, right? His wig as the handle, and it's a Khabib hammer?
Awesome.
No? Maybe? I don't know.
I like it. But, I mean, the other thing with Khabib, too, is I think, the only thing that could beat him now is his injuries. So he's got to really train smart. Yeah. And he's got to stay healthy because it looks like that's going to be his Achilles heel in the future.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. We have our awards show next week. I think you got that Steamroller Frivola kid coming up in St. Louis, so we'll get into all of that stuff. And the only thing we need from you next week is your male fighter of the year. Okay? That's the only award. We got 13 awards. We only need one out of you. Okay?
I got it. I'm on it.
And again, Ray, I'm retired, so you can't pick me. So
exactly.
You were my favorite.
See?
Elbows from Hellbows was this guy. This guy could cut you. You just look at his elbow, your eye started bleeding. I've never seen anything like that in my life. Seriously. You only had to raise his elbow. Your nose started bleeding. Your eye was gushing. It's like a superhero, this guy. It's
amazing. It is true.
I can't think this guy
He's always making me laugh.
I can't even believe we didn't even bring you into the ground and pound conversation. I mean, he's got like elbows are on his Wikipedia page. He's so famous for it.
Yeah, I got to go look at that. Yeah. Very good.
All right, we'll let you go to get to the Wikipedia page of Ken Flo, and we're going to bounce this Khabib hammer idea around a little further offline. But
who was the Greek guy? I think you fought him. Remember him?
Karalexis.
He was on the show too. Nice
Karalexis. Alex Karalexis.
Oh yeah, how's he doing?
He's doing good. He's working for a charity right now in Arizona. He actually builds homes for veterans. It's pretty amazing.
Nice kid, man.
It's pretty awesome.
He's got about 85 stitches over his right eye, thanks to you.
He reminds me about that. It was his nose. Oh, awful. Yes. Thank you.
All right, guys, listen.
Have a great night, bud.
Have a great 2018.
Happy New Year, brother.
All right, Happy New Year, guys.
There he is, the great Ray Longo.
I don't know any language. I don't know Russian. I have Dubai. That's it. What does that mean? One word. He already knows more than I do, and he's been there 5 years.
He knows a lot.
He knows more than I do.
And his accent is...
Distancia. Ben trabajo, let's go.
He gets all this.
Only one round, let's go. Last finish strong. Nice. Ben trabajo.
See? Like, no.
Хорошо работает. Делайте, расслабляйся.